Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Potential Unleashed. We are back with another video. We have Classroom of the Elite Year 2 Volume 2. Let's talk about it. It was actually a really good book. I say this every time. That's kind of funny. This book was a setup book. Typically when it comes to the setup books, they're not necessarily my favorite. It's not that they're bad. It's just that, you know, since the next books that follow them are typically better because a lot of the stuff happens. That's why typically the setup books are not the best. So like book 6 and book 8, they're some of like not my least favorite, but some of the, I guess, lower on the totem pole for me. But this one was actually different, and I started reading ahead a little bit, not necessarily waiting for the physical copies to release, because I have started to get spoiled a little bit. Like, I know some images that I've seen, but they've been out of context, so I don't really know like the plot or anything behind it. So just so I don't get spoiled, I'm just gonna go ahead and start reading ahead. And so I believe that the next 2 books are supposed to be the special test that was announced in this book, and then book 4.5 is supposed to be like the summer vacation that happened in this book as well. But we're gonna get into discussion. If you guys enjoy regular anime content and discussions like these, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new one. With that away, my name is Potential Unleashed, and let's get into it. Chapter 1, White Room Student Soliloquy. This is the White Room. They're given their soliloquy, and it was actually revealed towards the end of the book who the White Room student was. So the White Room student, they believe that the classes are too easy and that it's a waste of time for them to be there. They think about Kiyotaka and they have nothing but hatred towards him, because nobody in the White Room got any praise, because they were always compared to Kiyotaka because his grades are far superior than theirs. People of the 5th generation, which Kiyotaka was the 4th, the one after him, they consider him what you would say is a god. And the student of the White Room that's giving this soliloquy, they didn't believe that Kiyotaka was real until they saw him in person, and the different things that he did. For example, getting a perfect score on the math exam showcased that, yo, Kiyotaka's the real deal and he's actually like that dude. And so they were still jealous, but they didn't give him any acknowledgement, and they believe that in order to be the proper heir of the White Room, that they'll do anything that they can do in order to take Kiyotaka out of the picture. So meaning if they have to murder him, that's what they'll do. Chapter 2, Change in School Life. Kei he's nervous and he's waiting for Kiyotaka to return, where no high school students should have been able to solve the final math problem. And even Kiyotaka, I believe in the last book, said that you wouldn't learn that until probably sometime in college. And so in terms of the Anya Yakoji group, Kei is considered the smartest, so obviously when someone outdoes him like to that extreme, he's going to have a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy towards him. And so his friend, who he trusted, like that's been holding back this entire time, is actually kind of making him feel like he made a fool of himself, where he said that Ichinose and Saki and Naki, that they're the ones that also couldn't solve the problems either, and they're considered the 2 smartest besides, well, obviously Koenji and Kiyotaka, and I guess Harikta as well. And so Kei, he argues that she argues that Kiyotaka could be a hidden genius. Obviously she knows, and she's trying to, I guess, get him out of this hot seat, because a lot of people are just throwing random accusations around. And Kei, he's like, well, if he was really a hidden genius, then he wouldn't have held back in the other grade or his other scores, and they will all be the same. But we know that's not necessarily the case, because he didn't want to go all out with all these other scores, because he didn't want, you know, it would have been easier if he could explain it based off of one saying that he studied hard. And then also, I think his name or her name is Minami. She talks about how she believes that Kiyotaka cheated. And I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. I mean, that's a fair accusation, because somebody who had average or slightly above average scores all the way up to now, like finally getting like a really good score, I can kind of understand that. But then Pseudo steps in and he's like, yo, he's innocent until proven guilty, so don't assume something from somebody that isn't here, throwing random accusations out. And Pseudo, he knows Kiyotaka's true abilities to an extent because of the sports festival, the grip test, and him running against the president, and also the Hosen incident. We then cut to Kiyotaka leaving the office, and he talks to Chabishira. He's a little bit upset because her being there, like, she's trying to talk to him about, you know, praising him, what he did. She's like, yo, if you're here, right, this could lead to Tsukishiro having more suspicion towards you, and he needs all the allies that he can get, especially from the teachers. And she's happy that he's using his full abilities, because remember back in, I believe, book 11.5, she didn't believe in him anymore after, quote, losing to Saki Yanagi, but we know, you know, what really happened. And she's like, yo, you're going to get more attention. And he's like, well, it is what it is. And he tries to call Harikta to get a read on the situation or try to like mull things over, but she ignores him. He's like, well, fluff it, whatever happens, happens. When he entered the room, he gets bum rushed with different questions. Harikta, she tries to intervene, but Kiss is like, nope, I'm talking to Kiyotaka, you better back the fluff up. And he claims that Kiyotaka cheated. Like I said, he is pissed about what happened. And Harikta, she comes in, steps in, saying that this was all a part of her master plan, that she noticed Kiyotaka was brilliant back in the day, and she asked him to hold back. And the reason why this is able to, I guess, go with the students is that she and Kiyotaka would talk all the time, and everybody would notice it, to the point where they would even say, are they going out? And so it worked out because he didn't like to stand out, so their two goals aligned. And the class thought it was dumb for him not going all out, where Harikta was like, yo, he would have been targeted if he went all out in the beginning, so now we have a secret weapon or a trump card at our disposal. Then Harada, he comes in, stepping in, saying if he kept his abilities from his peers, it allowed for the info not to leak with other classes. If your own friends don't know, then nobody will. Then Kay came in, supported Harikta, was all like, yeah, I agree, and this was a good decision. So Harada, Harikta, and Kay, that this trio is really good, and they're growing because each of them have different skill sets that complement each other. Harikta is not the most social person, but she's the most analytical and the best to be the leader, where Harada can come in and explain things for different people who don't necessarily understand, and because he has influence over the class, people are going to agree with him. Same with Kay. She may not be the smartest, but she has influence over the girls, so if she agrees, then other people are going to agree as well. There was also the scene where they asked if Kiyotaka was hiding anything else, where he said he's not going to confirm or deny it, and that's pretty scary. That means that he's free to go all out without people going to have to question him anymore. Then after everybody else left, the Enya and Koji group talk. Kid said he talks about how he's mad and he distrusts Kiyotaka for holding back, and he's like, yo, not even telling your close friends is kind of effed up. And he's like, I may even leave the group. Where Hasabe, she's a little bit pissed. She's like, you better not do that ish. And so Kiyotaka, he feels bad for squandering on Kissa's study sessions, and says he trusts them completely. And to compromise, Kiyotaka can hide his abilities. However, he has to be the one to start teaching the group because, well, obviously he's the smartest one. They handshake it out and they're friends again, and that's how that situation ended. The next day at Kenyaki Mall, he's approached by Kenzaki and Ichinose, where Ichinose compliments Kiyotaka on getting a good score. However, Kenzaki, he's more on the side of caution, saying that Kiyotaka's a threat, and what else can he be hiding? The relay race, the math scores, like how high does his ceiling go? Where Ichinose, she's very adamant about not pressing the issue with Kiyotaka, and she even raised her voice and was a little bit firm in what she said, which that's not Ichinose at all, where Kenzaki ends up leaving. But personally, I think he's right. If you're competing against each other, it's cool to have friends for other classes, but at the same time, if you're not worried about somebody who out of nowhere started doing like really, really good and you don't know his ceiling, I think you have to be on the side of caution, and Ichinose letting her feelings get in the way and not really thinking logically, but it is what it is. But Ichinose, she's starting to get more and more concerned about her ability to lead the class, because a lot of people are starting to do their own thing and the class is kind of wavering a little bit. Where Kiyotaka says that class 1B is changing and it's not going to be the same as class 2B, because people are going to start moving on their own. For example, Kenzaki. And she says when push comes to shove that she's going to be the one to drop out if that's what it has to be. Where Kiyotaka, he says he doesn't allow that, or he won't allow that. And she gets flustered and blushes and all that. And she talks about his accomplishment, because Kiyotaka, let's be real, he's not going to let any of his pawns leave or any of his tools leave. So he's going to do whatever he can to keep Ichinose at his side until it's finally time for him to get rid of her. Who knows when that's going to be. But But anyway, she leaves after their whole conversation, and Anya and Koji come in, where Hakuba, she's like, yo, it seems like y'all are really close. He's like, nah, we were just talking about the math test, but they actually are pretty close. Kiyotaka and Pseudo, they talk back at school after Golden Week, where they talk about the math score and his relationship with Harikta, where Kiyotaka, he thanks Pseudo for covering up with him. Pseudo, he said he didn't cheat and was all like, wait for him to come back. And they talk a little bit more about his abilities, like the fight with Hosen. Pseudo, he felt fear fighting Hosen, and now granted their fight was a little bit skewed because he wasn't level-headed. They started talking about Harikta, and Pseudo lost his school, but still, even if Pseudo still would have lost to Hosen, but it probably would have been much closer. And Pseudo's like, yo, I felt fear in this fight, but however, you were easily able to demolish him. Like, how strong are you? And he ended up grabbing Kiyotaka's arm and notices his muscles. He said he had a hunch that he was strong based off of his physique. Him sitting at the pool. Remember that scene where Harikta was looking at him, was like, yo, do you work out and all of that? So obviously Pseudo was paying attention as well. And during the grip test, he was like, yo, you scored above average in the grip test. How strong are you actually? Where Kiyotaka, he's like, well, I don't fluffing know. Because in the white room, they end up not informing the students of their results. Then the question is asked, is he jealous like Kese, right? Because Kese, being as smart as he is and having someone being much smarter than him, and then Pseudo being as strong as he is, having someone be much stronger than him, how does he feel? And he's like, well, I understand Kese a little bit, but at the same time, I understand why you hid what you had to do, because you don't want to be in the limelight. But Pseudo, he's like, yo, if we were to 1v1, guess what? I'm smacking you. Where Kiyotaka, he actually agrees with him. Even in his head, he's like, yo, I'm not beating you. And he asks why Kiyotaka didn't try to silence him, where he says he believes that Pseudo, he'd grown and that he wouldn't say anything. Where Pseudo's flattered, he's like, yo, you see me as, this highly of a guy. I appreciate it. Where Pseudo is glad that Kiyotaka, he didn't get expelled in the class poll, because he believes that Kiyotaka is essential for them to reach class A. And Kiyotaka agrees that Pseudo is actually the one who's, well, basically they both think that they're both essential to reaching class A. Chapter 3, days passing by, Harikta asks if Hosen or Nanase have tried to contact him, where Kiyotaka's like, no. And then they end up entering the student council room, where Harikta, she says that she wants to join in order to follow her brother's footsteps, which is kind of true, but at the same time, it's because she lost to Kiyotaka. Where Nagumo, he welcomes her into the student council. Then later that night, Kei and Kiyotaka, they have a date. And then they start talking about different things, and then there's more of like a romantic atmosphere where they almost kiss, but then the doorbell rings and they're both like, who the heck just cock-blocked us? It was actually really funny. Then we find out that Amasawa, she's at the door and she's trying to get in, but he's like, no, you need to shoot. But she ends up threatening that she would expose their relationship, so he kind of had no choice and he lets her in. And so she ends up trying to apologize to him, talking about the whole Hosen relationship, and that she's not his enemy, but she was a part of it. And so Kiyotaka, he then had to explain to Kei about the 20 million bounty and everything that happened with Hosen and all of that to Kei. Chapter 4, approaching summer, premonition of a fierce battle. Nanase, she tells Kiyotaka that the special exam, it's still going until the second semester, the one exclusive for some of the first years, about getting him expelled. And Shabishiro, she talks about the special exam that is from July 19th all the way to August 3rd, and then from August 4th to August 11th, that's when students get to enjoy summer vacation, which I assume is book 4.5 based off of the cover art. And because it's like really complicated, I'm going to read the requirements, or the rules for the special exam really quickly. All right, so like I told you guys, I'm going to be reading it on here because it's like easier for me to do. If you guys didn't know, when it comes to doing like my summaries and stuff, I end up like reading the online summary and then I compare it to the actual book, making sure I don't leave out anything. So let's get into it. So the rules of the special exam: groups are to be of 3 to 6 students, like in a big group, and the ratio for forming a mixed group is 2 to 1 with 2 girls and 1 boy. Only students from the same year can form a group, and groups cannot change after forming. After the special exam starts, 2 groups of 3 people or 3 groups of 2 people or 6 single students can merge and form one big group. Students with injury or fever will be disqualified. If a group placed in the top 3 is composed of all 4 classes, the reward be shared equally. Students with form the bottom 6 groups will be expelled. Students can override expulsion by paying 1 million points. Class point rewards for the top 3 groups will be taken from the bottom 3 groups. Now, I want to mention that the whole thing about like the big groups forming, it's very hard, or the reason why like groups are essential is because they really don't know how the big groups are going to form once you get on the island. So I think that's really important. And then when it comes to rewards, groups that place first, they get 300 class points, 1 million private point, 1 protection point. Groups that place second, 200 class points, 500,000 private points. Groups that place third, you get 100 private points, 250 private points. Then the groups place top 50%, 50,000 private points. Groups place top 70 is 10,000 private points. There's also special cards in the special exam, and so let's see. So the basic cards, you get the Head Start card. At the start of the exam, the points you can use will be multiplied by 1.5. Bonus card, the owner of the cards gets twice as many private points from the reward. The half off card, in the event of penalty, reduces the amount of private points to be paid by half, only valid for the user. The free ride card is designated a group at the start of the exam to receive half off private points won by the designated group. The insurance card, in the case of the owner, the card is to be eliminated because of health, gives that student 1 grace day to recover, and is not valid if the elimination is because of cheating. Then there's special cards. More people, the owner of the card can join a group as the 7th person. This card can be used once the exam starts. Required boy to girl ratio won't apply. There's nullify, in the event of a special penalty, reduces the amount of private points to be paid to 0, only valid to the card holder. There's the trial card, receives the right to get 1.5 times as many class points from the reward of the special exam. However, the group will be penalized if it cannot enter the top 30% ranks. The school will provide additional class points for the reward. And card overview and rules. Both basic and special cards can be traded within the same year. Students cannot trade within their classes, and once a card has changed owners, it cannot be traded further. The effects do not stack when a student uses the same card. Like I said, I read it here because it's a lot of stuff going on. I think it's self-explanatory. Like I said, you get different rewards based off of how you place. There's cards that end up boosting. Everybody gets a card, so they end up getting boosted. And different cards have different effects. Special cards are very special. And yeah, there's different requirements that happen once you start trading cards and stuff like that. Once the explanation was done, Koenji, he asked Chabishira what would happen if someone got ill. He plans to basically drop out immediately like he did during their first year, and she's like, yo, you had to pay the 6 million points to avoid expulsion. And then Kiyotaka, he was falling the whole time, and Koenji's like, yo, who's there? And they talk. He's like, yo, how about we partner up? Where he's like, nah, I gotta decline because you're just gonna drop out if we do. Then there's Ishizaki, Hiyori, and Albert. They take Anya and Yakoji to Albert's room, and everybody believes, especially after what happened during the math score, that Kiyotaka is essential to having on your team because it boosts your chances of winning. Where they try to get Kiyotaka to join someone in Class B, however he declines because he doesn't know what the test has in score. And we also find out that Kiyotaka ends up actually receiving the trial card, which is one of the rarest. It's like a double-edged sword. It could either be the best card in the game or the worst. There's also Ike and Shinohara. They're talking about potentially joining groups together. But I believe Kushida was like, yo, Ike, this girl wants you to join a group, or potentially talking about it, where he ends up leaving. And Shinohara, she started crying. She's a little bit sad because they want to be in a group together. They have like a love-hate relationship. They don't really know what's going on. They're always arguing. They should just kiss and make up. Right? They should just go out, right? Come on, stop playing these games. But she met up with someone from Class B named Komiya, and so they're going to Kenyaki Mall to talk more about forming a group, because we actually find out that he ends up having a crush on her. And so Harada and Kiyotaka, they go to the mall to try to stop Ike because he finds out about this, where Matsushita is following them. And Kiyotaka, he has a discussion with her. She's like, yo, I want to join your group because you can use me like a pawn however you want. I'll sit up in here, do whatever you ask of. And, he's like, well, I'm not partnering up with anybody. She's like, yo, I understand that. But if you change your mind, here's my contact info. Kiyotaka's like, hey, I don't mind having more girls on, on my phone. I'm like, dog, you're going out with Kay. Stop, relax. That night, Kay and Kiyotaka, they talk. She asks him how would he do if he were to go solo. He said there's a 50-50 shot that he'll get first, and he does. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know where he's gonna place, right? I think he's definitely gonna be top 3, but there are a lot of opponents and a lot of outside factors that could really cause problems for him, which I'll talk about towards the end. And he's going to arrange for her to get the points that she needs so she doesn't get expelled. If, you know, in the chance that that does happen, he wants to make sure that she's there with him. Obviously, he wants the girl not to get expelled. Then we cut to Sakiyanagi and Ichinose. They meet, where Sakiyanagi offers to team up with Class C and get them back to Class B, and that they form the strongest team possible, especially with Sakiyanagi, because she'd be like the brains of the operation because she's limited with her physical abilities. Where Ichinose, she's reluctant at first, but because she's so desperate to get a win that she ends up joining forces with her. Now, I think Ichinose is kind of dumb in this situation, because here's the thing. With her teaming up with Class A, yes, they'll probably end up getting back to Class B. However, they won't ever pass Class A because, you know, obviously she made the deal knowing that they'd be ahead, and so it makes more logical sense for all the classes to combine to go against Class A so that they can all rise at the same time and Class A would fall at the same time. But I just think Ichinose is being a little bit dumb. Chapter 5, Battle of the First and Third Years. The first years, they decide to form a group based off of the strongest of each class, A through D. And because the first years, they get a handicap, they get to have 4 people in a small group off rip. Hosen, he's like the rest of the people, they got to be from Class D, and, you know, it is what it is. Hosen and Otsumiya, I believe that's how you pronounce it, they're about to get into a fight because Hosen got somebody from Class C expelled, and so Otsumiya, he's a little bit pissed. He's like, yo, you want to go? He's already hot-headed, and you know Hosen's all about the smoke. They end up then fighting. Later that day, Hosen, Amasawa, and Nanase discuss forming a group together, where Nanase and Amasawa, they demonstrate their strength. I think this is important for towards the end of the book, and they decide to form a group. And Amasawa, she gets the 20 million points as a reward because they're going to try to get Kiyotaka expelled. Now Hosen, he don't care as long as he gets the recognition that he was the one to expel Kiyotaka. There's also Kushida and Anya and Koji. They meet up with Yagami because he wants to talk. They talk about the bounty on his head, and he wants to tell them because he doesn't want Kushida to suffer. And we also find out that Nagumo and Tsukishiro were confirmed to be involved. And Yagumo, he has feelings for Kushida and wants to ask her out for the future. And I find this fluffed up because Kushida wants to get this ninja expelled because, you know, they went to the same school, and he could potentially know her past. I'm not going to really get into details about like the conversation because it's the same old Kiyotaka, you know, getting the injury, getting expelled, etc. We already know what happened in the last book. While they were talking at the mall, this girl Tsubaki, if you guys don't remember, she was the one, I believe of Otsumiya last book, who came to Kiyotaka trying to get them to work with each other. So she was watching them at the mall, and as Kiyotaka left, she approached him, was all like, yo, let's talk. Where Otsumiya ends up coming, and they talk about how he teamed up with her in order to try to get him expelled. They're involved with the bounty. However, they said, forget that, help us get Hosen expelled, because, you know, the whole Class C student getting expelled because of Hosen, and he's pissed. It's like, Kiyotaka, you know, you were able to avoid it then, and so if you could help us get expelled, I would greatly appreciate it. Then later we have a discussion with Vice President Kiriyama. He tells Kiyotaka not to get involved with Nagumo anymore. If you guys don't know who that is, basically remember in, I think it was like book 6, 7, or 7.5 in that range, where Manabu was like, yo, there's a student who really doesn't like Nagumo. His name is Kiriyama, and so if you work with him and try to get Nagumo expelled or try to get him from being president or changing the school, you know, I'd appreciate it, but, you know, that ended up didn't happen. But Manabu was like the bridge between the two. Think about the conversation towards the end of 7.5. That's that dude. However, he wants to challenge Nagumo directly because of all the stuff that happened in the past. So he ends up threatening Kiyotaka. He's like, if you get in my way, I'll have to defeat you in the island test too. There's also a third-year student sitting on a bench. Her name is Kuruin. She's interested in Kiyotaka. Think of her as like the third-year Koenji. She's smart, she's beautiful, she is physically gifted, but she doesn't help the class at all. and she talks to Kiyotaka trying to get a feel for him, but he doesn't really bite, and so she doesn't really know anything about him, but she is interested in him, and she challenges him on the island test, where then after Kiyotaka leaves, Nagumo joins, and he talks to her where Kiruen, she's like, Kiyotaka's more interesting than you and the former President Manabu, where Nagumo gets a little bit pissed at that. He's like, okay, well, so I'm gonna go all out, I'm gonna beat him and beat you too. I'm like, okay, this is starting to get a little bit interesting. Chapter 6, Invitation. There's Ruin, Katsuragi, and Kiyotaka that they're in a meeting together. I find this funny because 3, I guess you could say, real leaders, they're all here together. It's like, oh, it's about to go down. And they all want to take down Class A, where Ruin proposes Katsuragi he switch from Class B, Class A to Class B in order to challenge Saki and Naki. And he's reluctant at first, but Katsuragi, he ends up agreeing because he wants to take her down for everything that she's done to him. And it's revealed by Ruin that Kiyotaka was the one to defeat him, so now Katsuragi knows. Where Kiyotaka is like, well, what the fluff do I gotta be here for if this is what y'all meeting's about? Where Kiyotaka, he actually trades his trial card to Ruin for a half-off card and some points. The rest that he needs for Kei the bare minimum for her not to get expelled. Where later Ishizaki, he asks Kiyotaka if he could help find Ibuki a partner. He tries to get Harita to partner up with her. They argue because they don't want to form a group together, because they want to end up, or it's more like Ibuki. She wants to settle once and for all who's better. You know, you have the whole island test, the sports festival, etc. They don't get along. Chapter 7, The Calm Before the Storm. The groups are finalized. I'll talk about that more towards the end of, I guess, this chapter. Quenji, he has to go all out because he can't, just leave. And he asks Harita, he's like, yo, if I get first place, basically he's all like, if I do good, can I stop being, or you can stop asking me to help? And Harita, she says, yeah, with some conditions. He has to get first place and he'll never have to help the class again. But if he doesn't get first place, then he'll have to help the class more in the future. And then we also find out who the White Room assassin is. It's revealed that they are talking with Tsukishiro about getting Kiyotaka expelled during this exam, and it's revealed that it's Nanase Tsubasa. Now, to be honest, if I had to give like a percentage of how sure I was that she was the assassin, it was like 70 to 75%. I thought it was either her or Amasawa because the reasons for like me confirming it was her, number one, the scene with Amasawa where they tested their strength and that she was really strong and that she can talk equal with Hosen. I think that was pretty obvious. Number two, there are different interactions in book 1 where she talked about Kiyotaka. She talked about him with like a lot of disgust, but she never even knew him. And number 3, she was on the cover of year 2 book 1 where the White Room assassin was introduced, so it was kind of self-explanatory that was her. But the reason why Amasawa was like in second and that she kind of went down for me a little bit was that she was there when he got stabbed, so I was like, oh, maybe it's not her. But she's a little bit of a sneaky woman, I'm not gonna lie. But there's a lot of groups that are involved in this next sports festival, or this next special test, that we know of that are going solo. Probably Nagumo, I think, or he might be grouped up with other people, I don't really know. But we know Kiyotaka, Kiruen, Harita, Koenji, and Ibuki, that like the people that are important or have some skill that they're rolling solo. There's also Hirata, Kushida, and Kenzaki. They're big players that we don't know what groups they're joining. And then Ishinose, Hashimoto, and Sakinaki formed a group. And then there's Ruin and Katsuragi, and plus Kiriyama, who's the 3rd year the vice president. So there's a lot of players, and the next book's going to be insane. There's also some short stories that I want to talk about that was at the end of this book. There's Hiyori. She knew that Kiyotaka wouldn't join them, but she just wanted to talk to them, talk to him. She says, and I quote, I wanted to talk to him just for a little longer, even though it wasn't going to happen. And then when she took him, Albert was forceful with him, and she was forceful with him as well. She grabbed his arm and she wanted to hold on to him as long as she could, and she even pulled him tight into her chest, showing that Hiyori has a crush on him. There was also Amasawa, her short story. She ended up dressing cute to try to impress Kiyotaka. She stalked Kei, trying to figure out when she would end up meeting him again. And she wants to get close to him to find the weakness in somebody this special and take him down. Then there's Harita, her short story, her internal thoughts about joining the student council, saying that she not only wants to follow her brother's footsteps, but she also wants to be someone that Kiyotaka can acknowledge. And then lastly, there's Tsubaki. She noticed him multiple times that she was trying to keep an eye on him, and that he was like watching her, or that he knew that she was watching him. And he was good at maintaining like the same composure and the same like everyday or mannerisms that he would do. And she wants to understand the person named Ayan Koji Kiyotaka and see what really makes him special. But overall, this was a really good book. Like I said, the setup books typically, they're not bad, but the next books that follow them are really good. So this has me really excited for the next book. I saw a couple pictures, well, like the intro book for like book 3. So I'm gonna read it probably sometime starting next week, and I really look forward to this. But let me know how you guys feel about this book in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out a new video from it. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok is on the screen in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.